Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at noon starts now.
Two former MSU officials in court. A jury expected to begin deliberations in the trial of former Michigan State University Dean William Strample and former MSU President Louanna Simon in court for her preliminary hearing on charges stemming from the Larry Nasser scandal. But first, Detroit Police Chief James Craig talks to City Council about public safety. That tops our news here at noon. And here's a brief look at some of the topics they covered. The neo-Nazi disruption. Over the weekend, armed neo-Nazis crashed pride celebrations in Detroit and shouted insults while tearing up a rainbow flag. The arrest of the suspected East Side serial killer. On Monday, the suspect in the killings was charged in a separate assault. And the shooting violence across the city. Rod Maloney was at the council meeting. And Rod, what's the chief saying?
Well, the chief is saying that, yes, a spike is a spike, and it looks that way. He said, but overall, the city's crime is down in many areas. Sexual assaults are up, but murders are down in record numbers. He says the lowest rate in about 50 years. And he says that the city police department is always trying to find new and better ways to combat things. You talked about the Nazi protest here. His officers shadowed them and made sure that there was no interaction between them and other groups. And he said that was a success. And in many ways, he says what they're doing in terms of enforcement is creating the success. But he says there is one area where they really have no control, and that's the kinds of arguments that some people are getting into. He says that is the biggest issue. Let's hear from the chief.
When we look at this spike, the 28-day period, one of the things that we're seeing is an increase in argument, dispute-based violence. And so that's that spontaneous, like why would someone, like for example, we know about the tragic shooting of the 3-year-old on the freeway. For what? This person felt, or the suspect felt that he was cut off. So he responds to this by shooting a 3-year-old. And so that's many of what we're dealing with. It's not really a particular demographic.
And so one of the concerns he has is that they have to respond to something like that as opposed to be able to prevent it, because he says the police department certainly can't. One of the council members said that he felt, that she felt actually, that a lot of this needs to start in the home, and that helping the police by making sure that you attack something like this in the home is a good way to manage that. The chief also went on to say that he felt that the department is doing a good job in terms of solving a lot of the crimes that are out there, particularly finding an arrest in the serial killer situation, and also a couple of other of the major murders that have happened recently. He particularly said that his homicide unit is doing a very good job of at least solving crimes that perhaps previously had not been. Reporting live downtown, Rod Maloney, Local 4.
It's been a busy couple of days for police, that's for sure. Thank you, Rod. A man who hit a 12-year-old bicyclist learns his sentence. Take a look here. This is Dominic Amos. Amos was driving a 1996 Econoline van. He was driving on Baldwin near Garner Street in Pontiac when he hit a 12-year-old boy who was out riding his bike. When police got there, they found him in the street. He had serious injuries. The suspect had driven away. Amos was found. He was arrested in Central Illinois. The victim's mom today addressed the court.
He loved running. He thought he was the fastest person in the world. He can't run now. He has to have a brace on his leg because the signal in his brain doesn't tell his leg when to step. He is at a 2nd grade level as opposed to being a 7th grader. He didn't get to go back to school this year. We don't know when he'll go back to school or what level he'll be at. He requires 24-hour care.
Amos was sentenced to 18 months to 5 years in prison. Larry Nasser is hanging over 2 criminal court cases unfolding at this hour. The first involves former Michigan State University Dean William Strample. He's accused of failing to oversee Larry Nasser while Nasser was sexually assaulting patients and with committing sexual assault and using his position to solicit sexual favors from students. According to his defense, none of that happened. Prosecutors argue he did.
And finally, count 5, criminal sexual conduct in the 2nd degree that committed during the felony of misconduct in office. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I believe I've proven all of the elements beyond a reasonable doubt.
When you return a verdict of not guilty in this case, you do it with your head high. You do it because that's what the law says and the evidence didn't add up. And in this nation, that's what we do.
The case is now headed to the jury. Of course, we will let you know a verdict as soon as it's handed down. In another court at this hour, a hearing is underway to decide if former MSU President Luann Simon should stand trial for lying to police in the investigation of Larry Nasser. A state police investigator today read from a transcript of an interview that he and another detective had done with Simon about what she knew about the Larry Nasser case and when she knew it.
Before the story broke in the news, were you aware of any prior investigation with Larry Nasser or, misconduct for that matter, anything? Her response was, I was aware that in 2014 there was a sports med doc who was a subject to a review, but I was not aware of any of the substance of that review, the nature of the complaint. That was all learned in 2016 after it became clear in the newspaper.
And Local 4 is in the courtroom right now. We will let you know when a decision is made on whether or not Luann Simon will indeed have to stand trial. Turning our attention now to political headlines, the Michigan legislature expected to give final approval to a $28.8 million spending bill that includes funding to combat lead in drinking water and also to investigate sexually abusive clergy. Stay with Local 4 for updates as this develops out of Lansing. In other political headlines this hour, tracking the latest on Russia and the Russia investigation fresh off of yesterday's hearings planned by the committee on the Mueller report. Today, the House Intelligence Committee set to evaluate the counterintelligence impact of the Mueller report's findings regarding Russian meddling in the 2016 elections. The full House is also set to vote on a resolution authorizing contempt lawsuits against two Trump allies, Attorney General William Barr and former White House counsel Donald McGahn. Both of them defied subpoenas tied to the Mueller report. Turning our attention now on this Tuesday to the weather. It is picture perfect as we take a look outside right now through our Windsor Skycam. Brandon, we're just wondering if it's going to stay this way this afternoon.
Well, I'll see your Windsor camera shot and raise you this Mount Clemens camera shot. Beautiful. Yes, it stays today and a good deal of tomorrow looking pretty good. It's one of those days where I think, I get paid to do this? Mount Clemens 70, 72 at Metro, both Troy, Ann Arbor at 71. A little breezy from time to time later in the afternoon, about an hour and a half, 2 hours. We could get some gusts to 20 or 25, but if that's all we're complaining about, we're doing all right. Grab the shades. Don't forget the sunscreen. We can get a sunburn quickly out there today with tons of sun, middle and upper 70s. We'll talk about some of the changes you knew would come when. We'll have it coming up.
Thank you, Brandon. Still to come, recent tourist deaths have some people rethinking their vacations to the Dominican Republic. What we're learning after at least 6 tourists from the U.S. have died under very mysterious circumstances. But first, beloved former Red Sox slugger David Ortiz back in Boston after being shot in the Dominican Republic. We're going to update you on his condition coming up next.